Hi, I'm Bharat, and I am the founder and CEO of Rage Coffee. I've been a serial entrepreneur and I've been building brands online and building tech businesses for the last 10 years now. What we're doing at Rage Coffee is we're solving the problem of great, affordable, high quality coffee conveniently given to consumers worldwide. And prior to this, I have been running businesses and happy to be chatting with you right now. To be honest with you, there was not like one moment because it was in the back of my mind. As a serial entrepreneur, what you also learn to do is to not treat every aha moment as something that's going to be converted into a business idea. Because one of the biggest lessons I had from my first startup was that passion is not enough. In building businesses and building startups, you need a lot more than passion. In fact, passion could be the starting point, or interest could be just starting point. And that is why every idea that I was going through at the time, I made sure that I did my enough due diligence on the market sizing, on the consumers. Was there a paying market for it or not? Dig down reports, and there's no end to that as well, because what is in your mind is possibly something that has not been done before. So you can never know the exact outcome of what you have in your mind. But there are these signals that you can get. And as an experienced entrepreneur, as an experienced business person, you get to know that when you're close to your customers. So there was not just one aha moment. But I would say that the idea of building the next generation of coffee products was something that was at the right intersection of a personal passion and a huge market opportunity. It was neither of only one, but it was a good intersection, and that was my aha moment, that this could be interesting to me, this could be fun, and as well as it could be a large business. See, the biggest challenge is that going after niche categories is a low-hanging fruit, but it drains you a lot of your capital. So to sum this up, or to reiterate this point, the challenge is that most of the categories that need innovation require a lot of capital as well, if you need to overturn the category completely. So are you a product first brand, or are you a marketing first brand? These questions need to be answered, and till the time you would answer these questions, mostly you would be running out of your capital. I've talked to a lot of startup founders and entrepreneurs, those who don't have a lot of good backing, they fail to arrive at this point. What are they? Like, as a brand, as a company, what are they solving? That's the bigger challenge, right? But if you derive challenges out of, there's challenge of capital, number one. There's challenge of traditional mindsets with the manufacturers. If you're not looking to reinvent the wheel, there's challenges with scale, because most digital businesses that start online, there's a ceiling on the volume that they can do online. Obviously, because online markets are 3%, 5%, 2% in different categories. So there's always a ceiling there, right? Most entrepreneurs mistake the fact that they have good margins because they don't have to go through the middlemen, with saying that, or without knowing that most of that margin is passed on as marketing and acquisition costs. You have to be very well aware of what your acquisition costs are, because if you are building a business online, your biggest head will be your marketing and acquisition costs and retention costs. So do you get it or not? Most people I've seen, if I tell you the current statistics from what I come across, after 15, 20, 15, 10, 15, depending on the category, there is a flat line. They're not able to grow beyond that point. That is the challenge, right? How do you organically, or how do you have these innovative ideas where you can grow? And those are all acquisition-led challenges or category-led challenges. So regarding fulfillment, obviously I can go on and on about the challenges because there's so many of them. But yeah, with respect to fulfillment, it has improved a lot, because I have seen when there was nothing. So I'm not the best person to tell you very critically about fulfillment, because for me it's all good, because I started selling online. Then there was not even a delivery, and Blue Dart did not even know what e-commerce rates they had to give. So it was all a different world back then. But it is much better now. Like in terms of fulfillment challenges, I would say that if you are streamlined, if your tech supports and if you're working with the right vendors and if you have the right customer support team built in, most of those challenges would go away. But then you have to have a digital DNA, right? If you don't have that digital DNA, then you would fail miserably in I think there could be other answers to what I would say, but what I feel is that the fundamentals have to be very strong. If you are a fundamentally resilient company and if you're built on very strong fundamentals, there is a very grim chance that you would fail as a brand, because if your unit economics work well, then you can maybe your scale would lower down in the pandemic or whatever, like in tough times, but you would still not die if your unit economics is good, right? If it's positive and the cost structures are good. So that is why the most important thing is by fundamentals is you understand the gap you're filling. You have a product which is fundamentally differentiated. Most D2C companies are building Me Too products. 9 out of 10 are building Me Too products. How will they be able to compete in a market for acquisition? Everybody's fighting with the same consumer. Everybody's ready to pay more and more for Facebook and Google and Instagram and all of these other platforms. How do you differentiate? And fundamentally differentiated products are the key. If you don't have fundamentally differentiated products, the battle is, or even before you begin, it's lost. Secondly, brand ethos. What do you believe in as a company? Does your brand stand for? Can your story be passed on to the consumer, and are you doing it the way and packaging it in a way where consumer gets it? So I think most companies that do end up winning, I think they get the gap right. They understand the consumer really well. I cannot emphasize the importance of knowing your consumer. If you don't, and not knowing them superficially, like really knowing what they do, when they do. For us, when they drink coffee, how many times they drink coffee, how do they make their coffee, what is missing in their lives, why would they switch to Rage Coffee? So all of these questions were answered before we started. That's also, let's say, the benefit of being a second or third time entrepreneur. But I would say experience. You cannot just underestimate the importance of experience. These are very complex categories, because you could lose all of your money. You would not even come to know, because that's how online works. So you can be in this idea that you are making money or you are breaking even, but when the books show up, because it's not like offline, how traditionally cash in cash out worked. These are very different kind of cost structures, very different kind of DNAs are run to build businesses online. So I would say in one word, it's the digital DNA. If you have that, then everything would come in together and there are lesser chances of you failing. India, what is modern commerce? If you talk about the context of today's, like what is happening, we went from a general trade model to a modern trade model in the last, 15 years? 15, 20 years, right? And we are still, somebody came in, they said, oh, modern trade is going to kill general trade. And somebody came in and said, e-commerce is going to kill modern trade. None of that happened. So for me, I think it's only the channels. For example, I'll give you talk about us, right? What we do is we are not fixated on the idea of selling only digitally as a distribution channel. Modern commerce is about integration of all of these channels. If you cannot do it, you will lose out. If not today, in the future, you will lose out on your consumer, because the consumer is in the phone. The brands are being created here. Then they look somewhere and then they can buy that product. You necessarily don't need to do ATL, BTL for consumers to pick up your products in modern trade today's time. And that's the hinge that we have built the entire Rage Coffee brand on, because we've excessively promoted the brand online. We've built the brand online. We've created the entire customer pull online. And now we have better throughputs than most coffee brands in our price bracket in modern trade, in offline world. So it's an integrated world, and omnichannel is obviously going to be the future. Cannot emphasize that aspect more. But to me, I just believe that if you have to be present where your customer is, knowing where your customer is the biggest thing. the biggest virtue. I cannot be the only person to answer this, and that would be the right answer, because I know of a lot of founders who and brand owners who've done really well on, say, let's say, the marketplaces in a category like apparel, electronics, and personal care, versus that they have done on their own websites. Obviously, there are certain reasons why you need to be on the marketplaces for discovery, etc., etc. Social commerce do not work for a lot of categories at all, but it works flawlessly and fabulously for a lot of categories like apparels, for example. So yeah, I think it's a very category dependent this thing. But what I personally focus on from a long-term view is we push as much as of our business to our D2C platform. Number one reason is data. If we have the data, there is always a better outcome to reach out to the customer again, to have them, make them a part of our family, show them the real worth of buying from us, because the product is not the only thing they're buying from us. They're buying the entire experience of shopping completely effortlessly and getting the after sales support, etc., etc. So that's what I believe in, and I push all of my business as much as I can to our D2C platform. From a fulfillment point of view, I feel like the bigger marketplaces have figured it out. Amazon is a wonderful platform for fulfillment. I think their supply chain and operations and tech it's insanely integrated with each other, and it is a platform where all of the other marketplaces are at least 5 to 10 years behind. I feel even today, I won't take names, but they're at least 5 to 10 years behind than Amazon when it comes to fulfillment and on-ground operations. Most founders would not say this, but I'm telling you that this is the reality of how Amazon versus other marketplaces are. When it comes to D2C platforms, warehousing is a huge challenge, especially when you start scaling. Integrating warehousing, inventory, order management, and then with the fulfillment partners is also a challenge. As you scale, it becomes a bigger of a challenge, and if you don't plug these gaps at the right time, then it's hard for you to scale. I mean, you will not, and everything will crumble down. Technology has to be the flag bearer of everything that goes on ground, and especially after India's mission to digitize the country, and with UPI coming in, with scanners everywhere. I think give it 2 or 3 years at max, and I think we won't be even needing any of the human interaction at all to communicate for any of the deliveries or whatever. You would go on Amazon, scan, and you would be done with. It depends on how the AI starts to work in. Possibly you will not even need to reorder a lot of your stuff. So everything will be one tap, scan, UPI or whatever, digital payments driven. So that's how I see even e-commerce going in. And that's, technology is the base on which all of this has to be built. Without it, you can scale up to a certain point. You can scale up to a certain level, but beyond that, you would end up wasting a lot of your resources trying to scale without technology. Intelligence on SKU level data is very important. It is something that you cannot take out, because if you have to, you have to know what to stock, what inventory you should be having. It's basic business math, right? If you are producing, there's always an 80-20, whatever, 70-30 rule with respect to your products, right? 80% of the business will be bought by 20% of the SKUs. It is just common knowledge. And if you're launching new SKUs, how do you understand how your systems interact with new SKU launches is very critical, because when the wheels are running very fast, then every new SKU launch has to mean something, because cannibalization, SKU proliferation are very common things that brands would make mistake with. So you have to SKU level data, but not at the surface level. You have to dig down. You have to really understand what are the trends for these different SKUs in terms of demand that you are seeing that with these SKUs and across channels. Because we sometimes see, like when we started out, the shorts used to be the best selling products on the website for a long time before COVID came in. And then on the offline world, squats did not do well at all. So we had to introduce glass jars, and we had to introduce other and they started to do really well. So if we didn't have that insight or consumer information, we would not have been able to do that, which would have been a blunder. D2C is, I think, an abused term now. Like in the last 1 year, it has been abused so much. Everybody trying to go digital or building digital business is now a D2C brand, which is not true at all. A D2C business has a data-driven digital DNA. And by data, you mean that you have information, you're utilizing that data to make actionable decisions. Like those are decisions that decide the fate of your brand and your company. How many people are actually using that data to make those decisions? If you are, then you are a D2C brand. If not, then you are a e-commerce brand or an e-commerce company. That's the key. That is the problem. We can never replicate what Amazon, we can only do it through somebody who can build that solution for us, because Amazon is way ahead in terms of even planning, right? They're already doing what we are planning, like what we're thinking. So they're always going to be ahead of us when it comes to logistics and fulfillment and keeping the customers synced. So yeah, and the consumer doesn't care, really cares only about one thing, which is they've already experienced Amazon. They have already experienced Amazon level tracking. They expect similar behavior when they buy from anybody online. And if they don't get that behavior, they will not return. Like I have seen so many people who just because you didn't tell them that the package is going to be delivered today, they will never buy from you again, because they don't tell us, we are not at home, we're outside, we're in office. So they will just say the company is not good, I don't want to buy, because consumer always has so many options. We are at a very early stage, so it's only going to grow from here. It's a huge untapped market, and there are various innovations that can happen in this big market: out of home, at home, roasting and brew types, and instant and gourmet and specialty and entry level. There's a lot of innovation that can happen. Where I see people not doing, a bit entrepreneurs not coming in, I see the global coffee market and I see the Indian market. Nobody's really thinking like we do. Nobody's really thinking of building the products of future that are global in nature, that can have acceptance globally. In India, the challenge with entrepreneurship is that very few want to take the hard route. There's an easy route and there's a tough but long route. Very few people want to take that. Now, that's where innovation comes from. Innovation will never come from an easy, simple route, because you go to a manufacturer and say, यही बनता है, ये चार चीजें यही बनती है, नहीं बनती. He will not bring in new machinery for your 10,000 units order. That won't happen. So, I think the key there is an opportunity, but how that opportunity really is exploited by the entrepreneurs is up to them.